Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This afternoon I'm going to be completing my double hitter of the A Vox in the Void YouTube channel videos requested by AnthraxCrab2222. The final video is Macrergate Instinct, Warhammer 40K audio, Tyranids, made on the A Vox in the Void YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my previous reaction to other A Vox in the Void's Warhammer 40K content, remember that the playlist card for the Warhammer 40K content created by YouTuber's reaction playlist is going to be at the top right here. Just click on it and be able to access them. And I've just watched The Passion. If you want to check that out, remember the card is going to be at the top there for the playlist. You'll be able to find it there. And now we are continuing with Macrergate Instinct. Yes. Macrergate is... Let me just get the meaning here again. An unusually large worker ant. And since the Tyranids are like, bugs, and many of the bioforms that, invade a planet are like worker ants. They're ruthless, they're efficient, they're emotionless. They have one clear objective: to consume, to destroy, and, just to conquer and consume. So yeah, definitely there are worker ants. All right, let's see what this audio is all about. Remember guys, if you want to check out the original video as well as A Vox in the Void's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. I forgot to say about that part there. Yeah, okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Verus glanced up at the grandfather clock that dominated the room, suddenly conscious of its steady mechanical rhythm. It was an ancient heirloom and his family's most valuable possession, though he couldn't understand why. It was hardly accurate, and had to be adjusted regularly to bear even a passing resemblance to their solar cycle. Even so, it told him it had been over 5 hours since his father had left. He had spoken to Verus before leaving, and since then he'd been mulling over his words. The Explorator survivors have confirmed that the Splinter Fleet is heading for us, so you'll see less of me over the coming weeks. Verus had read about the Tyranid. They were a hive mind composed of horrifying warrior organisms that existed only to consume and replicate. Although the guard primers he'd stolen from the top shelf of their library emphasized that though vicious, they were little more than mindless beasts.
Mindless beasts. Oh, I no, that is so funny. That is so funny. A mindless beast that has continuously invaded the galaxy and has pushed back the Imperium of Man time and time again. A mindless beast that has almost brought us to the brink countless times. A mindless beast that swarms an entire galaxy in the trillions of organisms, and you call that mindless. The propaganda is strong in the Imperium of Man. Really, it is unbelievably funny and sad.
Easily overcome by the tenacious spirit of man. How many are there? Verus asked. I won't lie to you, we don't know. However, the shadow in the warp is unusually small and weak enough to have allowed our astropaths to get the word out.
They want you to do that. They want you to do that. I don't know their ultimate plan, but that's definitely part of their plan. They want you to do that.
There's a chance this is a depleted fleet, coming for us out of desperation. He hesitated for a moment. There's something else too. There have been sightings of a creature near Marble Arch and Rodney Way, possibly a vanguard organism. If so, we think it may be after me. Verus had said nothing. No.
If it's after you, whoever you are, Ferris's father, right? if it's after you, you must be very important. You must be like a general or something like a general or a commissar or someone very important on the planet. And if that's the case, then definitely it's a Tyranid hunter assassin. What do they call them again? You know, the ones with the Squidward. Well, not Squidward, but you know, the ones that look like they have like a squid-like face with the tentacles. Like we see the image right here. I forgot what they're called. I think Lictor. Yeah, not licorice, but Lictor. Lictor, that's what they're called. They're called Lictors. It's after you. Yeah, it's after you. Yikes.
Noticing then that his father was wearing his las pistol holster unclasped. This isn't unexpected. The Xenos have been known to try this before. If they disrupt the chain of command, they might think they have a chance against us. I, however, don't intend to sit idle and wait for it to strike. I intend to hunt it down. The Emperor rewards those who confront his enemies. What?
Yeah, the Emperor rewards those who are proactive. Good, good. Go after the enemy. Don't wait for the enemy to come to you. I like that. Although I think you're going to need an entire regiment to face up against this Lictor. But yeah, I like your confidence. I do.
If that's what it wants, wouldn't it be best to stay here, to fortify our manor and the spire itself? I've made all necessary precautions, but if it's after me, this is the best way I can protect you. His father forced a smile. Don't worry, I've been preparing for this. Look after your brother while I'm away. He's not yet old enough to understand the call of duty. Since then, he had been playing with Otto on the dining room floor, awaiting his father's return. There was a 7-year age gap between them, such that his younger brother's play often strained his patience. He was engrossed in a game of toy soldiers between the folds of the carpet, the rules of which were a mystery known only to him. Every now and then he would glance up at Verus, imploring him to join in, and
oh, you're so cute.
He would move some figures unenthusiastically. The scaling bothered him. He had never seen an Astartes, but he was sure that the Emperor's avenging angels were relatively taller. Distracted, the clock impinged on his awareness again, and he got up to stretch his legs, walking around the grand table just to be away from his brother for a moment. He found himself in front of a bust of Lord Solar Macarius. The sculptor had done fine work. They'd probably never met him, but Verus liked to think that they had. Otherwise, he thought they wouldn't have included his imperfections. He had been just a man, like he'd be one day. He unconsciously raised himself up at the thought. A shadow fell across him and he turned, eyebrows curling in annoyance that Otto had climbed onto the table again. It wasn't Otto, however. His mind faltered, primal senses jammed by the sudden detection of lethal threat, unable to fathom the creature that stood mere meters away.
Wait, it's here? With you guys? Isn't it supposed to be following the father? What is it doing here?
It towered above him, claws outstretched, relaxed, almost beckoning. Mantis-like scything talons arched above, suspended with impossible insect stillness.
Oh my gosh, it's going to kill you guys. Oh my gosh. Ugh, these kids.
Every fiber of its being indicated it was bred to kill, and yet it didn't move. Adrenaline crashed through his veins and his mind recoiled at every aspect of its presence. His floundering attention was seized by its stare. Deep set between chitinous protrusions, its eyes were small and unspeakably black. They reflected no light, yet within them Verus perceived a dreadful intelligence without sentience, a calculation that knew neither malice nor mercy. And yet it didn't move, standing before him with monstrous composure and an executioner's intent, appraising him, its tail held high behind its head like a serpent poised to strike. Verus might have mistaken it for a statue if not for the questing tendrils that spilled from where its mouth should have been, writhing gently, as if tasting the air.
Oh my gosh. Man, why is this taking me back to like the Alien movies or the Alien versus Predator movies? You know, when you see the xenomorphs, how they're just standing still and you just see their mouth going, you know, then you see the saliva coming out and, oh my gosh, this is taking me back to those movies. Oh, this is scary. All these poor kids. And there's nowhere to run to. How can you run away from this thing? With your small little legs, there's no way. Why is it going after the kids? Why isn't it going after the father? Or maybe it didn't know that the father left. Oh gosh.
The shock of seeing a filament of the great devourer appear in such a familiar space almost broke him, casting his comfortable ignorance into hideous form. The pit in his stomach opened wide beneath and threatened to swallow him. All he could hear was his heart hammering in his ears. The grandfather clock struck the hour then, the resonating metallic sound shattering his paralysis. Amid coursing adrenaline, his cognition flooded back. He was no threat. If he was, he'd be dead already. No, the creature's intent was to instill fear, and that realization hardened his resolve. He remembered Macarius behind him, and his courage ignited. He remembered Otto, who, still absorbed in play, had yet to notice the intruder. He was further away, and therefore he had a chance.
What amazes me is that this lictor is so quiet. The fact that it can just enter into the house and just, you know, stand up on top of the counter table like that, like making no sound whatsoever. While Otto is busy playing on the carpet with his toy soldiers. Where are the security guards? Where are the maids? Where is anybody in this house? My gosh.
Otto! Run! To Verus's relief, his brother took one look at the monster and sprang up like a startled mud rat, sprinting for the east door and scattering plastic guardsmen across the floor. For a moment, the Tyranid didn't react, and then, still looking at Verus, it flexed its right claw. Verus noticed the fresh blood upon it, quashing any hope of aid from the household guard, and he immediately regretted his outburst. He felt a dull nausea enter him as he watched the predator turn away contemptuously, coiling its muscles. With silent, feline grace that belied its size, it leapt clear across the room, vaulting the table and landing in front of Otto with a deafening crash that shattered the parquet floor.
Otto!
It slammed its scything talons into the ground on either side of his younger brother, who toppled back in open-mouthed horror. Verus watched from the other side of the room, utterly powerless as the courage reserved for his own self-sacrifice drained away. He expected the creature to carve Otto apart at any moment, and then he would run. Yet once again the organism paused, as if savoring death's approach. The clock had stopped chiming, and had returned to its regular beat. It seemed like an affront that it should count away each second in the same way it always did. Slowly, almost tenderly, the Tyranid reached out a talon and enveloped Otto's face. He could see his brother shaking uncontrollably. Then it turned its head and looked straight at Verus, piercing him with his gaze once again. Its other claw snaked around Otto's back before raising him to its chest, as a mother would cradle a newborn. He could hear his brother's muffled, gasping sobs as its tendrils probed fiercely toward his mouth.
Oh my gosh. Just kill him fast then. Why are you playing around? Just kill him fast. Oh, this poor boy.
Verus found himself running through the south door. He'd always been good at running. His father said he had sprinter's legs. He burst into the atrium and was halfway toward the main door before he remembered what was happening. He snapped a glance over his shoulder, expecting to see the beast ready to impale him, but it had not pursued.
I don't know if you realized this, but you left your brother. Maybe because in your state of mind, you're not really thinking about anything else but your own survival. The fear is there. No doubt about it. I understand. I do. But yeah, you left your brother. You left your brother.
Then he remembered his brother. That might explain why he was running. To get help. There was no other reason.
No, it's not about getting help. You ran away. Or maybe you are looking for help, but then what help would you find when all the help that was inside the house was also killed by the lictor? But anyways, I'm just saying that you're running away because you are fearful of the situation. You're in your flight or fight mode. Yeah.
Comforted by this purpose, he ran on, but paused when his outstretched hand reached for the exit. He realized then that he was fleeing out of cowardice. There was no one to fetch, no one who could help in time. And if he left, he'd be leaving his ancestral home, abandoning his only brother to a fate worse than death. He'd abandoned his brother. Behind him, he heard the south door swinging on its hinges and turned. But again, there was nothing there. It was just settling after he had barreled through it. Then the main door opened violently, and he toppled over backward. The figure who walked through was recognizably his father, although he saw him as he never had before. Though he wore the same PDF uniform in which he had spoken to Verus that morning, he seemed larger. There was a hard focus in his eyes and an unyielding tension in his posture. He realized then that his father was prepared to die to protect his kin, and Verus's terror was compounded by shame at having fled. Armed men followed the general, flooding into the hall like water into a crevasse, covering every corner and shadow with the sights of their lasguns. His father turned to him. "You're in shock. Tell me where it is." Verus pointed toward the south door leading to the dining room. "Go outside and wait with my men. Wait outside." The tone of command brokered no response. His father turned away, and with a signal his men formed up around him. Verus recognized one of them, Major Hawthorne, a distant relation who'd often joined them for dinner in the very room they were about to storm. At that moment, a sonorous bellow rumbled through the empty manor. It seemed to come from all around them, above and below. It boomed down the stairs and echoed off the paneled walls for a long moment.
But what about Otto? Is he dead? Or is he still alive? Aye.
Filling Verus with dread. In a quiet, steady voice, Hawthorne answered, "He is our shield." In unison, the soldiers completed the catechism. "And our protector!" His father remained silent. Despite himself, Verus's spirit soared as the squad surged forward as one. He watched, transfixed as they reached the south door, the lead man bringing it down with a savage kick. Verus followed cautiously, forgetting his father's order and daring to hope that he would see them slay the monster and save his brother.
Are you an idiot? Oh my gosh, dude. Just get away. If your father dies here, it's gonna come after you as well. Kids.
He didn't hear any lasfire from the room beyond, which must mean the creature had temporarily eluded them. Yet they were the best his world had to offer. It was only a matter of time. They'd probably saved Otto already. Verus felt a sudden disturbance in the air behind him, and with a sharp intake of breath, panic finally overcame him. He felt a claw encase his head, a talon resting gently on the base of his skull as he was lifted bodily into the air. The monster shrieked and chaos ensued. The creature burst into the dining room, brandishing Verus before it like a ghastly trophy. Through the blood pooling in his eyes, he caught glimpses of soldiers frantically taking up formation to confront the new threat from behind. He heard men shouting, begging for orders, and imagined nervous fingers itching upon triggers. For a moment, he could just make out what he thought was the silhouette of his father, who alone stood motionless and silent. And somehow, through it all, he could just make out the unfaltering heartbeat rhythm of the grandfather clock. Or perhaps he was imagining it. The Tyranid screamed its challenge and leapt toward the firing line. Verus heard his father give the order, "Open fire!" The fusillade of las bolts pierced them both. and the monster died without sound. Only Veru screamed.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. His father lost both of his sons in less than 10 minutes. He lost both of his sons at the hands of this lictor. I don't know how Otto died. Probably he was strangled or eaten, but it seems like Pharos, of course, he was shot by the PDF forces under the orders of his father. That would break anyone, especially when it comes to the father of the children. That would break him. And this is what a lictor wants. Because lictors are not just hunters, they're not just assassins. They demoralize any forces that are protecting a planet. They are the scouts. They look out for important targets, they target them, they destroy them, and they cause havoc and disarray on the planet that's been targeted. So instead of the lictor targeting the father, the lictor decided to target the children. And that's one way of demoralizing the forces, because if the father is inconsolable after this entire situation, they faltered. The PDF forces will have no commanding officer to command them in the field of battle. But this is diabolical. This is just truly just diabolical from the lictor. Using human emotions this way. That's terrifying. Because really, I was expecting the lictor to go after the father, neutralize the commanding officer, and the forces would go disarray, because there's no longer someone who they can look up to and take commands from. But instead of going after the father, it went after the children, knowing fully well that if it kills the children, the father would be shattered. He would lose that resolve to fight against an enemy. Wow. Mindless beasts. Mindless.
Months later, Major Hawthorne gazed down at the corpse of his commanding officer. The morgue was cold, lending him an unusual clarity. Every few minutes, a quake from above dislodged a cloud of particles from the rockcrete ceiling, which drifted lazily in the air. Compared to the carnage of the battlefield, the harsh lights and equally spaced tables created a sense of order and peace.
And the commanding officer was Pharos' father, right? Yeah, Hawthorne's commanding officer. It's Pharos' father. He's dead. He lasted months. It's quite impressive. I thought he would have been killed within weeks.
Although the bodies were the same. The general had died leading a doomed charge to retake a forward trench in the southeast quadrant. Although Hawthorne knew, as had been plain to see, that he had been dead for months, defeated before he ever set foot on the battlefield.
Exactly. The moment he lost his children, it was over.
He dragged his men down with him. Hawthorne didn't have any children. He couldn't comprehend what it was like to lose 2 sons in a matter of minutes. But apparently the Tyranid did.
Which is terrifying. It is terrifying that they can understand the human psyche and human emotions that way. Oh.
Suppose that the lictor was hunting the general. But what if the foul creature had intended to untether his sanity by rendering him not only powerless to protect his children, but culpable in their deaths? And that had implications that troubled him. That was more than anticipating the behavioral patterns of prey. That was manipulating their psychology for a desired effect, which suggested a much deeper, more intimate understanding. Hawthorne had fought chaos cultists, those who cast aside the Emperor's grace and embraced the abyss, the decadence, the scheming, the rage. Yet even those warp-twisted vermin embodied a recognizable, though corrupted, humanity. He'd fought greenskins too, thankfully from a safe distance. It was obvious they barely understood fundamental human drives and, more importantly, simply didn't care. The Tyranid were different. To have mastered human psychology so completely, and yet to deliberately omit it from their engineered bioforms, was more chilling than seeing his friends torn asunder. It meant the traits of humankind were no more than emergent properties of another biological process.
Bingo!
As transparent to the gene craft of the great devourer as any flora and fauna. It meant humanity wasn't divine. It meant he'd been lied to his whole life. He thought then of the lictor, unflinchingly confronting its own certain death. How could it be the manifest destiny of the Imperium to rule the stars when this selfless predator of the void judged human nature to be a weak survival strategy?
A weak survival strategy that it exploits with such precision. Oh, unbelievable.
His comrades had often told him he should pray more and think less, and perhaps they were right. Although for him it wouldn't matter for long, as another shockwave, the largest yet, spread cracks through the ceiling. Shaken from his reverie, Hawthorne wheeled the body of his friend into the crematorium. He paused over the activation stud for a moment, considering rejoining what was left of his platoon. They were probably making a last stand in Alexanderplatz, the kind of gesture he'd been taught was synonymous with glory. He wondered who was still alive. The idea of dying among friends felt good, but these were the predictable thoughts of a social animal. Herding groks together made them easier to control, easier to extract their biomass. It would be a futile and selfish gesture. At least this way they would never see his meat, nor would they add his distinctiveness to their own grotesque gestalt. Hawthorne activated the incinerator and stepped into the flames.
Oh, okay. Alright, Hawthorne. But I think the Tyranids also consume the ash, don't they? So I don't think this will really help. I honestly don't think this will really help. They will consume everything. Everything. Whether it's cooked or it's not cooked. They will eat it all. But yeah, you know, that's one way to go, I guess. Guys, you know, I keep saying this, don't underestimate the Tyranids. Don't underestimate these things. These creatures are definitely the most terrifying, the most threatening species in the galaxy. No one can compare to them. Not the Tau, not the Dark Elder, not the Orcs, not the Chaos Forces. No. These things, they need the focus of the Imperium of Man. This lictor, just one lictor, destabilized an entire force that was protecting this planet, the PDF forces. One lictor. Instead of taking out the commanding officer, it takes out the commanding officer's children, demoralizing the forces almost immediately after that point. What comes next, the Tyranids find as an easy, platter of food waiting for them to be consumed by them. Because the general has lost his marbles, he's lost his will to fight, he's lost everything. He just saw his two children die before his very eyes. Hopeless. Shattered. And the Tyranids just walk through. They just consume. They just keep eating and fighting and finding ways into fortresses and just killing and eating as much as possible. Don't underestimate these bugs. They are not mindless beasts. not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. These things are terrifying. Oh, what an audio. What an audio. I think it was written by A.G. Glenn. Yeah, wow. What an amazing audio. And thank you, A Vox in the Void, for your voice acting in it as well. Really, it was good. It was really, really good. I really did enjoy this one. Terrifying. Oh, wow. Like, I want to see this in a movie. I want to see this in a movie. You know, usually... Okay, I'm going to be digressing here, guys. I'm sorry. Usually, like, you know, in terms of Alien vs. Predator or the Alien movies, humanity always finds a way to win at the end of the day, you know? Whether it's the lone survivor or it's a couple of survivors from an entire situation when they were dealing with the aliens and the face huggers and or the predators, you know, usually there's always a human being who wins the day. But in Warhammer 40K, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. It is terrifying. It is terrifying. There is no winner on the human side. And this would be a beautiful example of how the Tyranids operate, how the Tyranids win against their food source. And that's us. It would be a very beautiful, terrifying movie to experience. Or a TV series. Okay, no. Well, in terms of the Tyranids, I want it to be in a movie form. Yeah. It would be an amazing, horrific, you know, gut-wrenching movie with the Tyranids, definitely. Especially if they have lictors like this one. Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. But yeah, thank you again to AnthraxCrab2222 for the request. This was very good. This was really, really, really good from A Vox in the Void. Thank you also to A Vox in the Void. Really, what you've produced here was so entertaining. The music as well, like especially towards the end, as Hawthorne was, you know, coming to the realization that these bugs are not simple-minded creatures. You know, they think, they understand, they can contemplate, they can manipulate, and they can formulate plans on, you know, demoralizing the forces that are defending a planet. I like how he came to that realization, and the music was also building up at that point. Ah, that was amazing. That was amazing. And also when he decided that, you know what, I'm just going to kill myself. I'm just going to burn myself in the furnace. Yeah, really. And you just heard that, you know, the switching on light for the fire to engulf them. Yeah, really. That ending part was just so good. But yeah, guys, that's it. That's it with Macrergate Instinct Warhammer 40K audio Tyranids, made on the A Vox in the Void YouTube channel. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as A Vox in the Void's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. And yeah, thank you, AnthraxCrab. Thank you very much. That's it with the double hitter from A Vox in the Void. Until next time, remember, if you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I'll see you guys next time. Okay? Bye-bye.